Hello, everyone, and welcome back to For St. Pete's Sake, the official podcast of the Stonewall Democrats of Pinellas County. I am your co-host, Christian Hotchkiss, joined as always by my amazing co-host and our current reigning president, Laura Gherkin. Laura, how are you?
I'm doing really good, Christian. It's, it's 10 days into Pride. It's been like 2 official weekends full of fun stuff.
I got my gay shirt on.
You got your gay shirt on. I'm looking forward to this weekend. Not anything to do with Pride, but my niece just turned 21 yesterday. And so she's coming down from Ohio to spend a week with me. So I'm really
It's a party
looking forward to that.
weekend.
Okay,
Yeah, you got to show her all the good spots.
Safe in Uber.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes.
We
Take an
definitely
Uber.
introduce her to the art of the Uber for sure.
Absolutely. Well, I am super excited for that for you, but I'm also super excited for our conversation tonight because we have a really special guest. You just heard him speak. He is a candidate for District 2 for St. Pete City Council. I'm really excited. Gabriel Hament, how are you today?
It's so great to be on. Thanks for inviting me on to the podcast. This is the first podcast of the campaign, so I'm really excited.
Perfect. Well, we're so glad you could join us today. Thank you for being here. Really excited to see you. For those of us that don't know you too well, we're just getting to learn you. Give us an introduction. What do you want us to know about you and your campaign?
Sure. We're going to be focused on a number of issues in the campaign. I'll give some information on my background, then we can go into some issues that we're focused on. My name's Gabriel Hament. I'm running for District 2 on the St. Pete City Council. And for your listeners and viewers, District 2 is the northernmost district in the city, abutting the Howard, Franklin, and Gandy bridges, and then over to MLK, and then from the high 60s up to the bridges along 4th. So there's about 4 or 5 major neighborhoods within the district. Couple of points on my background. I think I'm a real strong candidate for this seat, and I'll bring 3 main areas to the council. 1 is my legal background, 2 is my financial, and 3 is my volunteer government service a couple of years ago. And on the legal front, I went back to school when I was 30. I went to law school. I started at Stetson and finished at the University of Florida in Gainesville. And I'm an assistant public defender.
Okay.
Important job.
It is very
job.
You make sure you take an Uber this weekend.
Absolutely.
I want to
That's got to
represent
be
anybody
stressful.
in a couple of days, okay?
Oh, my goodness.
And as an assistant public defender, I'm representing people who have been charged with a crime and who can't afford a lawyer. We are, as assistant public defenders, the Constitution in the courtroom. We're ensuring that people's constitutional rights are protected, their voices are heard in the courtroom, and that due process is followed. And I've represented people at every stage of the process, from first appearance, when people are just arrested and they're seeking a bond, all the way through jury trial, and in some cases sentencing, but we like to win and prove our clients aren't. So that's on the legal front. On the financial front, soon after I went to college, I worked for an investment advisory firm in their nonprofit foundation space. And I worked with boards of directors and management teams to structure their investments, keep the costs down, generate reasonable returns over time, so that the constituencies the nonprofits are serving and we're serving could be best served with as many resources as possible over time. And then on the government advisory board front, originally, I grew up in Sarasota, and I served on the school district's financial advisory committee. It's an appointed position. And there, as in Pinellas, the voters approved an additional $1 million property tax that went to increase funding for schools, for longer school days, better pay for teachers, school security, and STEM programming for students. So those 3 main areas, I think, make me a real strong candidate for the council. And then on the political front, we can talk a little bit about that. I've worked on a number of campaigns through my 20s and 30s at every level of government, from city council to school board, state legislature, Congress. I haven't worked on a presidential campaign, but up to the federal level through Congress, and then ballot initiatives as well. And I don't want to talk too much, and I'll let everybody jump in at some point.
Please.
I'll tell you
Please.
the story, and I feel it's real important to who I am and who I am as a candidate and will be as a council member. When it was a big commitment and change to go to law school at the age of 30. Usually people are like 24, 25, right out of college that go to law school. But I'm glad I did it then because I was much more focused than in my early to mid 20s, and I was a much better student than I would have been. But what led me to law school was this. I was in the financial world by day, but I was moonlighting as a community organizer. And this was back in Sarasota. There's 5 members on the county commission, and they've been elected Republicans for 50 years, elected countywide.
Yeah.
The citizens of the county put a charter amendment on the ballot, which passed resoundingly, changed the method by which the commissioners were elected from at large, even though they represented a single district, to single member. So that opened the door for candidates who didn't have as much money to run, and it opened the door to progressive Democratic candidates.
Fantastic.
It was great news. The commission's response was to rig the elections.
I was going to say, shut it down. Let me guess.
The way they did that was gerrymander. It started off as a partisan gerrymander, and then it took on racial dimensions for a couple of reasons.
As it usually does.
Yeah, I was going to say.
For 2 reasons. One, the first elected Black mayor in the city was a declared candidate. They drew him out of the district, number one. 2, the numbers that they used, the population statistics to generate the maps, were shown to undercount minority neighborhoods. So huge issues. I led the effort for months. The county commission narrowly approved the racially and partisan gerrymandered maps. And then a pretty well-known person named Hugh Culverhouse financed a federal lawsuit that was heard in Tampa on constitutional grounds and on state constitutional grounds, because we have an anti-gerrymandering amendment that I hope will stop what's happened.
Allegedly.
Yeah,
right.
Unfortunately, evidence was destroyed prior to the filing of the lawsuit, so I don't think the lawsuit, the legal issue, got the full vetting that it deserved. So it did lose. But I said to myself, wow, I don't want to just be a community organizer at the county and local level. I want to take my advocacy to the next level. And so that's what I wrote my law school statement about, why I wanted to go to law school. I wanted to be on the legal team fighting these unjust actions and the gerrymander. That led me to law school. And my goal was to get back to the University of Florida because I went there for college. But life has its twists and turns. And I didn't immediately get into UF. Very competitive. They didn't want my LSAT score. It wasn't a very good score.
Hey, as someone that took the LSAT a very long time ago, I did that right after college. That thing, nope. And the way they score it is so dumb. I don't know if it still is, but like when I went, it was like your score is based on the group you're taking the test with. It's
Yeah, I
like,
think it's
and
fair.
it's like the
Yeah.
day that I took it was just like, at the law school in my hometown in Toledo. It's not like big and prestigious, but there were people coming down from Ann Arbor that were applying to Michigan and Georgetown and and I was like, so I understand. Yeah.
LSAT.
The LSAT score struggle.
Not fun. Almost as bad as the bar.
Oh, yeah.
So I was fortunate, though. I got into Stetson And I fell in love with Stetson. And I also fell in love with my current partner. So that was the blessing in disguise. I didn't go to the school that I initially intended on going to, but I fell in love with Stetson, and I met my partner, Corey, who had recently moved from Iowa. So we had our first
It's
date. We
amazing.
went to Sushi Inc. We went to,
Perfect spot.
yeah, we went to Enigma, and then what Intermezzo across the street. Actually, it was
Hmm.
Intermezzo and then Enigma, and then I think I forgot the rest.
Yep, sounds about
It-
right.
yeah, it
That's
was
that's
great.
very similar to how my first date with my partner went. We went to the Italian restaurant right there, and then we went to Enigma, and then we went to Intermezzo. So
That's the circuit. That's the first
So
date circuit.
well-worn
that's
route, yeah, for sure.
it.
So I went to Stetson, and then it was my goal to get back to UF. So eventually, I clawed my way in and finished at UF. But I already knew I fell in love with St. Pete, so I moved back to study for the bar, and then I started working as an assistant public defender across the bridge in Tampa, and it's just been a phenomenal adventure ever since.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
And I love that, as someone who also went back to school later in life, I did the pandemic, everything's burning down, let's go to grad school move. So
Right.
like I totally understand the impulse to try something just totally new out of nowhere. So I love that.
Just hit 30 last year, and I'm looking into classes right now, so I get it.
I think it's a good time to go back to school if you can, swing
It's
it with
never too
working,
late.
bills, and everything.
Exactly.
Hmm.
It's great too when you
Absolutely.
go back later because you just have like you have life perspective, and then it especially with the depending on what you're studying, if you're doing like a political poli sci law, this is just such a topic rich time, shall we
Hmm.
say.
The law is in flux, and
Yeah.
mostly,
Absolutely.
unfortunately, but yeah. Yeah.
Absolutely. Well, that's
Uh,
awesome. So you have a really varied background. I love to hear that. I want to dig a little bit deeper in before we get into the campaign and why you're running and things like that. I want to know a little bit more about your experience as a public defender, because that is a 100% thankless job, and oftentimes you guys are overworked and severely underpaid, and I go back to this scene from How to Get Away with Murder is one of my favorite things, and one of my favorite shows. And of course, they had a Supreme Court case in the show where it was about public defense and providing enough money to allow people to do that and make sure that the representation is fair. And I feel like, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I feel like that almost is real life in a way. What is that your experience as a public defender, and how is that shaping you moving forward?
Great question. First of all, I have such a dynamic office, and I'm very fortunate that the elected public defender, Lisa McLean, and she's elected countywide in Hillsborough County, and she just won last year,
Fantastic.
or I think a year and a half ago at this point. Um, Support allowed me to run and work at the same time. That
Yeah.
was a huge blessing. But it's such a dynamic office. You have a number of people who just got out of law school and passed the bar, and it's their first legal job. And then you have people who have had accomplished legal careers, and they're like, well, I'm done billing 2,100 hours a year and dealing with that whole thing, and I want to do something more um, altruistic and helpful to people who really need the help, not just corporations
Mhm.
suing one another.
Yeah.
So, and you have this age spread of people in their mid to late 20s all the way into their 50s and 60s,
Mhm.
working at the public defender's office of varying degrees of experience. So it's dynamic in that way. Um, the way the office is set up is you start at the intake level where you are interviewing people who are recently arrested within the last 24 hours, and you're gathering their background information so that you can then advocate for them at first appearance court and seek as low a bond as possible.
Mhm.
or what's called an ROR, or release on their own recognizance, where you're promising to return to court and without a money bond
Mhm.
attached to you. So that's the first step in your journey at the public defender's office, is helping people with their pretrial release conditions. And then the second step, which most people go through, which I did, and it's the best part of my legal career thus far, is working in the juvenile delinquency department and practice.
Mhm.
And that was unbelievable. That's where I became a lawyer, no question. And there's serious cases, even though you're a new lawyer or new to the office, you're dealing with misdemeanors up to serious felonies.
Mhm.
And you're in front of a circuit court judge, not a county court judge, and the circuit court judge has a lot of power. A county court
Mhm.
judge sentenced somebody up to 1 year in the county jail, which could mean multiple years if there's multiple charges.
Mhm.
A circuit court judge can sentence somebody um, for life. There aren't life sentences in juvenile delinquency court because the court has jurisdiction up over the kids up until the age of 19, but
Mhm.
they have a lot of power in that they can send kids to secure facilities, which are basically like high schools that are locked and you can't leave, um, up to the age of 19. And there's actually no end date to the sentence. The person who decides the end date is the facility administrators themselves and a committee of people that
Okay.
include all the lawyers. So it's really serious work for that reason and other reasons. When I look at my adult clients, I go back and look at their history, and frequently they become uh, defendants as an adult because their issues weren't properly addressed when they were kids.
Mhm.
So I identified that early on, and that made the work even more urgent and meaningful in juvenile delinquency court. And
Mhm.
so I helped the gold standards, obviously, dismissal of the case, because my job as a public defender is to get the state out of people's lives, the government out of people's lives. But the gold standard, besides the dismissals, was called a Walker Plan. And a Walker Plan is where you enter the young person signs a plea document, but the plea document is put to the side and is in the judge's drawer, basically, and is not entered. And they go on sort of a self-directed probation rehabilitative plan. And that includes community service, counseling, re-enrolling in school, because a lot of the kids I help with are not enrolled in school. And we're talking about kids who are 14, 15, and 16. That's a huge issue.
Yeah.
Obviously, no substances, no drugs and alcohol. And then if it's a gun related issue, there's a special program that the kids have to go to after school that addresses gun possession and gun violence. So
Mhm.
that was some real heavy work. And those are my biggest victories, were when I could negotiate a Walker Plan down from a child going on probation, which probation is very, very invasive.
Yeah.
It's the state gives the juvenile justice commission, I think it's called, um, a lot of power. They can show up at people's houses at any time. They can go into a kid's room to make sure there aren't any things in there that they shouldn't have, and check up on them in school. So it's a lot of power that they
Mhm.
have over the kids when they're in front of a circuit court judge. But I got a lot of young people redirected back in school. I had partnerships with uh, principals, teachers, and counselors to ensure that kids are doing well. I would go beyond their legal case, as much time as I have as a public defender,
Mhm.
and help with resumes for the kids, and just checking up on them and making sure they're actually doing their schoolwork. And
Yeah.
maybe I'll call their parents once in a while and make sure what they're telling me is true.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
But it was
Just to
good work.
verify.
Yeah.
I
That's
it's I also have a special place in my heart for juvenile detention work. My first job while I was in college as a criminal justice major was I worked in the juvenile detention center at home in processing and booking, and I've booked at kids just getting rung up on a safe school, stupid, drive me insane violation where it's just an excuse to get them into the system in my opinion. And then I actually also dealt with booked in one of the kids that was accused and ultimately found guilty of murdering a police officer in our community. So it's like, and the thing that I learned the most there is just, like, treating them like they're humans. Like, I mean,
Mhm.
and I think that basically goes with anybody, especially people, like, just anybody, but people that have been in systems that are so oppressive, just, like, hearing their story and like, saying, like, "Listen, I see you, that you are a person that has struggles, and I'm gonna do what I can for you," goes such a long way.
I 100% agree. And every lawyer has their approach in the courtroom. I invented my own. And what I did was I got to know the kid and the family really well, over the phone and in-person meetings. And after we reached a resolution with the state that the judge, of course, approved, I would do a little open court pep talk, with the kids and say, look, here's what you're doing well. Here's where you need improvement. And
Mhm.
then judge would echo those comments, and it just helps to reinforce the importance of staying in school, avoiding substances, and
Yeah.
making sure you're hanging out with the right people. Those are the bottom line. The other thing I'll mention is about half of the kids I worked with were foster kids. And I
Mhm.
can't believe, absolutely, I don't know if the city council can do anything in this area, but because it's mostly a state agency, but the funding issues for the foster children are unbelievable. A number of the kids I worked with, they were on what's called night to night, where they haven't received a permanent placement, and so they're living in a different house
Wow.
almost every
Every
night.
night?
Oh my
You can't be
gosh.
a normal child living like that.
No.
No,
Of
that's
course,
just
you're
like
gonna, like, run away.
that's like state couch surfing essentially,
Yeah.
like
Right.
So that's a massive issue that needs to be dealt with statewide.
yeah.
I
Mhm.
just my eyes will be peeled on what work I can do, from the city perspective there. But
Yeah.
I'm glad you brought that up and reminded me of that issue.
I think it would be absolutely incredible if there's somewhere, like a plot of land or something that, or an old building or something that the city could designate as a shelter for specifically for youth. Um, it could be used like that. Maybe that's something that you guys could look into on the city
Eh,
council.
you know what? I'm gonna go back after interview and take a look. I remember reading about a project that was, focused on foster kids who are aging out of the system and
Hmm.
having designated special housing, for
Hmm.
them when they turn 19. I have to go back
Absolutely.
and look at that.
Absolutely, because I speaking from experience, once you hit that age, not my personal experience, but I know people who have been in the system. My two younger brothers are adopted. We got them on an emergency case situation. If we didn't get them, they would be out on the streets. Once you hit that age, then you're kind of just let out and
And look,
be
people
free in
aren't
the
adults
world.
until they're like 25. Like that's
Right,
No,
and
never.
that only sets these kids up for failure, especially if they've already been in the system, in the juvenile detention system, or they've gotten in trouble and things like that. You're throwing them out on the streets practically. So, absolutely, that is a major issue, and I'm glad that's something that you have thought about and are looking into. Ideas as to how you can work on that.
The other issue, I'm now in county court, so that's misdemeanors, and it's adults. And so we're talking about thefts, DUIs, batteries, trespasses, working with a lot of people without housing. And
Mhm.
the other, constituency I'm representing a lot are, uh, people, immigrants, who don't have proper documentation. And here's what's going on with those cases, and it's really alarming. All the horror stories are true. So what happens is, the county, sheriff and jail notify ICE that this
Mhm.
person is being held, at the jail, and so they put on what's called an ICE hold, on the case, and so even if they can't bond out during their case, they have to resolve their case and sit in jail. And keep in mind, I'm a public defender, so I'm representing people who can't afford a lawyer.
Yeah.
And hire an immigration lawyer, you're talking 3, 4, 5, 6,000,
Exactly.
Mhm.
way out of reach for people. And so a number of my clients, I say to them, look, we can resolve your case now. We can go to trial if you want, but we can resolve your case now. And then ICE is going to come pick you up. And
Mhm,
families here in the US, their jobs, their entire life is here. And we're
Mhm.
talking about people driving without a valid license.
mhm,
That's draconian. This federal law is. That's ripping people out of their communities. So what my tools are very limited in how I can help. I can do a
Mhm.
couple of things. One, I can refer them to the bar websites with a list of immigration lawyers if their family can cobble together the funds. Two, I can slow down the case so they can actually try to raise the money to get um, to get a lawyer to help with the immigration issue. So it's limited in what
mhm.
we can do, but it's something I'm dealing with on a daily basis, and it's extremely sad and unfortunate.
It's sick to think that people have to make the choice of sitting in jail for a longer amount of time just so they don't get deported and have to get taken away from their family, their children, things like that. It's so sick to me that in America, and it's not just here in Florida, I know it's everywhere, but the fact that we are having those sorts of issues, and this is America, this is supposed to be, the beacon of hope. This is bring immigration is, supposed to be something that we're, very proud of, or, we should be. But it's sick to hear that that's
It's a due
the
process issue
choice.
from a legal perspective. Yeah.
Absolutely.
And of course, with many of my clients, I have the language barrier too,
Hmm.
Spanish. So that just further complicates things. I did have a person from China as a client, and she spoke Mandarin only, and that even further complicated the case because fortunately the court system can request an interpreter ahead of time. But I was working with a Mandarin interpreter in open court trying to help
Wow.
this person, and it's difficult. These interpreters are very skilled
Yeah.
people. You'd be
But they're
dead.
not lawyers.
No, and
Right.
translating technical legal terms in English sometimes doesn't convert to another language, so it just complicates it.
Sometimes it doesn't convert in English, if we're honest.
Yeah.
Right, I know. So, yeah,
Yeah,
that's that.
the and then that it's like because you're damned if you do, damned if you don't choice of that, right? So it's like sit in jail and fight, strum out a misdemeanor charge, or settle, plead, do whatever, and then ICE is gonna take you. And then ICE takes over your custody. And then what's your choice for ICE? Sit in jail for
A
God
week,
knows how long
week.
until you run through the really depleted immigration judge system, or self-deport, which I'm hearing from people I know, like, my dad's an elected official in Ohio, and his pet peeve is the fact that the prison that they run is taking ICE people. I'm like, he had helped just get someone out that was volunteered to self-deport back to Colombia, who sat there for 8 months.
It's
Paper signed to self-deport, sat incarcerated for 8 months.
and the
And of course,
issue
the
is
jails aren't necessarily, like, saying anything because 'cause they're getting paid from the federal government for that body being in there.
right, a huge conflict of interest. And in immigration court, it's not part of the judiciary, it's like a court system within the
Mhm.
executive branch, and you're not guaranteed counsel. So there's not that adversarial tension that keeps all of the systems in check because you don't have a public defender standing next to you watching what's
Exactly.
going on. So that's another issue.
Absolutely. Yeah, again, just going back to the main point of being a public defender and having to go through that. It is a thankless job, but thank you for doing it. And we need more public defenders, and we need you guys to be funded appropriately so that you guys are able to
Yes, thank you
work
very. And
on
that's
behalf of
another
these
point.
people.
That's another important point. The governor this line item vetoes so much power for the governor, which the president does not have.
Hmm.
A country, but the state constitution is a lot. we decided many years ago that the governor in Florida is going to have line item veto for whatever reason. I'll look
Yeah.
at the history later. But last legislative session, the legislature said, we'd like to give a cost of living differential for public defenders and state attorneys in metropolitan areas because it's more expensive to live. So they should make a little more money than somebody living in a less populated area.
Yep.
So great idea. I mean,
Common sense.
I can't believe the legislature actually included the public
Right. I
defender.
was like,
That's
common
fantastic.
sense from the
Right.
stupid majority? What?
I know, hard to believe. The governor line item vetoed the public defender from that.
Just the public defender left the
ridiculous.
state's attorneys in.
Yeah, and included
That's
the state attorney.
ridiculous.
And a lot of respect for my
short man behavior right there.
a lot of respect for my counterparts on the other side. I have a great relationship
Right.
with the state, but I'll go to bat for the client, scorched earth if I need to. But I've found that I get better resolutions keeping up that collegial relationship.
Yeah.
Explaining my client's position to them. But our jobs are harder. We actually have clients with constitutional rights on the line. They do represent victims at the state attorney's office, but that's just part of their entire calculus and developing their offers are and what they're seeking in a case. Whereas we have a client with constitutional rights on the line that could be incarcerated and their life ruined. And go to the jail and meet with clients. I have over 100 cases. I think that's 75, 80 clients right now. And that's a lot of work, and we should be paid more.
Yeah, absolutely.
And you talk to former prosecutors, they'll agree.
And on top of all that, awesome hard work that you're doing, running for city council is, not easy or, necessarily getting paid necessarily, definitely not getting paid for the running part of it. But so what have you been hearing, like doing your canvassing, any like door-to-doors that you're hearing? Like, what are you hearing from people in District 2 about what their concerns are in the district?
Good question. I'm about to start knocking on doors next weekend because we're currently drafting our walk piece as we speak.
Gotcha.
I just saw the first draft yesterday. I have a couple tweaks.
Yeah.
But I've been meeting with people across the city, not at their doors, but at community events. And I've met with Riviera Bay Civic Association. I've participated in about 4 of their community service projects on the weekends. And I'll get into that in a second. Community service is a big part of the campaign.
Absolutely.
I've been trying to do one project a weekend or one project every other weekend. I think that's how you act. Or number one, I want to do it. It feels great to get outside and do things rather than working at a desk. But 2, you meet people and you find out what constituents are actually talking about. The media is usually accurate at the local level, but sometimes it's a little different what people are actually thinking. Because the media is typically dominated by political people. That's who are speaking to the media. So you got to get on the ground and actually talk to people. A couple of major issues with the district. Virtually the entire district is coastal high hazard, and Riviera Bay in particular was totally wiped out by Helene, and then Milton was adding insult to injury. So the flooding issue and the rebuilding is still going on in Riviera Bay and neighborhoods south of Riviera Bay. So Riviera Bay, their concern is we have the $600 million GEO bond that the mayor and city council are going to put on the ballot for November. And it's going to be kind of awkward because you're asking people to tax themselves more over time. At the same time, the legislature, totally reckless, has put this property tax exemption increase up to $250,000 by 2027, which is going to completely decimate municipal budgets without any alternatives. The governor said, "Oh, we might have a trust fund that's gonna be able to keep all our police officers and emergency workers paid and all these other important city-funded projects." But
garbage being picked
there's
up.
no legislative teeth behind the promise.
Yeah.
So on the ballot, you're going to have the city uh, bond. We're going to be asking people to support it. I support it. We need what I'm saying is we need a Marshall Plan level approach to not just storms, but climate change in general, because the storms are a symptom of climate change.
Absolutely.
And I've been to the community meetings. I've read the literature. We're going to have a foot of sea level rise in the next 15 to 20 years. So,
The thing that I always say to people that, and I don't hear it personally very much anymore, about, climate change denial is like my pushback to that to people that still have that a thing is like, if you wanna continue to believe that, that's fine, that's up to you. The people who calculate the cost for your insurance, the actuaries, they believe in climate change, and so
hmm
you're paying for believing in climate change whether you wanna believe in it or not. So do you want your costs to go down? Then let's mitigate some climate change.
People
it's
don't realize that some of the streets on the coast in Pinellas County will flood during high tide. Like on a daily basis, they'll get 3 to 6 inches of water on the roads. And it's like people don't realize that this is a major issue.
No, Shore Acres. It was so ironic. I was
hmm
driving to the Shore Acres Recreation Center on a climate change city response event, and it happened. It was like the first downpour of the summer, and the
hmm
flooding was immediate.
Yep.
And I actually had to take a different route to get to the rec center for the
Well, and
meeting.
Central Avenue.
part of that also is because it's been so much of a drought, so the ground
hmm
is so dry, it can't suck it up as quick, but,
Yeah.
like, yeah, it's all
hmm
crazy, it's all crazy, but yeah.
So the city can do as much as it can. I mean,
Yeah,
we're one
hmm
city in Florida on a peninsula, but in order to have an appropriate response that is compressed in an amount of time that can actually mitigate the damage that's going to come over the next decade, 2 decades, this has to be state level and national, the response for coastal communities. So one of the reasons I'm running is because the legislature's not doing anything. They're dead in the water. They
yeah,
don't say climate change denial, but their actions indicate that they still deny that climate change is happening. And Washington, I don't know how Washington has positively impacted my life in like years, so I have no idea what's going on in
right.
Congress. I
Yeah.
know we have fewer civil rights for the first time in this country, um,
Yeah,
than more civil rights out of the Supreme Court and the Congress. So I think it's up to cities and with climate change and other major issues to lead the way. And that's one of the reasons I'm running for city council, is because this is going to be the level of government that's going to push state and federal government forward. It's not going to be top down. It's going to be bottom up. Tallahassee, there's supermajorities with the Republicans. They're ruining the state. And then
hmm
Congress, I think the Democrats are going to win the House of Representatives. It'll probably be closer in the Senate. And then in 2 years, we're no doubt going to have a Democratic president after what Trump has done to the country. But it's going to be cities where these solutions are going to be coming from.
Absolutely.
absolutely.
And that the city council, and this is what I always say, local elections are the people that have the most impact directly and immediately on your life. So local elections, that those down ballot offices, people just go out and vote for the president and think that's it. But that
Yeah,
president has very little to do on your day-to-day life. The city council, the school board, the county commission, the dog catcher. Again, I always say, like, all of these offices are immediately impacting your life, and we need everybody to vote down ballot.
It's critical. And the Republicans, they beat us on this over the
hmm
last 10 years. They targeted school boards in
yep,
particular with the Moms for Liberty push and the pro-privatization through vouchers and schools managed by for-profit corporations, charter schools managed by for-profit corporations.
yeah,
hmm
They and they launched their social issue crusade through school boards, and
hmm
DeSantis made it a huge part of his governorship, supporting these school board members. That's where they launched their all-out assault on the LGBTQ community
the trans
through the
community, yeah,
school boards, the book banning, which
yep.
is also targeting our community, and then yeah, it's been a mess. But I think progressives have have realized this. They've woken up, and we're slowly taking back the school boards and just focusing on educating kids, not launching political
Right.
crusades. I mean, we're just trying to
Right.
get kids
Right.
through high school and then meaningful careers or college. Like, let's
Yeah.
not overcomplicate this.
You're absolutely right. And as you said, Republicans have been doing this not just for the past 10 years, they've been doing it for decades, where they have stacked these offices because they've made
Or
it so much like, oh, that local elected official doesn't do that much. Focus on the president, focus on who's your senator, focus on Congress. But that's how exactly put all of their people into those local candidates, those local offices, and that's how they've gotten the control that they have currently over the state of Florida and other states.
And you know what
Is
they've been really strategic on? The state party and even national people, they send a lot of money into these
Mhm.
local races. And, raising money is extremely difficult. I've done
yeah,
it myself over the last
Yeah,
3 months. Extremely difficult. When you send $5,000 to $10,000 into a school board race or to a city council
right.
race,
That's
that
it's a game
really moves
changer.
the needle, because that's the difference
mhm,
between sending out a mailer and not sending out a mailer.
Yeah.
So that's how they were real successful now. I think we've all awakened to this fact, and we're pushing
I hope
back.
so. I hope
Yeah,
so.
we last week on the pod we had Dr. we had Bjorn Wigney from executive director of St. Pete Pride and Dr. Byron Green Kalish, who's the president of the board of St.
And
Pete
he gave
Pride.
a great speech, by the way, at the flag raising. He
Did
gave
he?
a really good speech.
Oh
I
yeah,
saw
he's
that.
a
I
great
saw
guy.
that.
He went straight for my heart when he his shout out at shutdown. He brought up the Supreme Court as the shutdown and Chief Justice John Roberts, which listeners of the pod know how I feel about him.
Right.
So I'm
I
like,
Yeah.
was very
And the
sad to
ethics
miss that
issues out
pod.
of the Supreme Court. I mean, let's not get into that now, but the
yeah,
ethics
exactly.
Right.
been unbelievable. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I just want to ask one more question. Christian, I'm not sure how many you have. One of the things I know that is it's looking to be a big deal for the district is the have people putting their greedy little eyes on the Gandy area for alleged data center.
There was a Tampa Bay Times
Mhm.
article today on it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a huge issue. In fact, I've made AI a part of the campaign because it's what I believe. I've seen a lot of AI generated court filings, both in my practice and outside of my practice, and it's really harming the legal system in these
Mhm.
AI generated filings, because there's incorrect legal reasoning that's misleading. There's cases that don't exist in these court filings, and it's just creating a lot of chaos in the whole
Mhm.
system. And also, all these questionnaires that I've been completing over the last couple of months, all of that material is personally written by me and
Mhm.
researched. I don't edit it with AI, and I don't ask AI for help on anything. I think that's really important, because I'm starting to see AI seep in every aspect of campaigning and life in general. And I think it's really eroding the human experience and originality and authenticity. So I'm
On
I'm
top
not
of the
I'm not for AI. I'm not for AI.
Yeah. Not only that, but on top of just the environmental issues that it causes so much. And if there is any talks of a data center, um, anywhere in St. Pete, I really hope that every single candidate will step up and say that they are against that, because that is the absolute last thing that we need. We already have so much toxic waste being poured into the Bay Area on a daily basis just
We
from
already
Big
have a
Sugar
massive drought. Where's that water coming from?
right,
And by the way, I'm a
Exactly.
right,
big Matrix fan, but not for what happened in the
Right,
Matrix.
right.
But
right.
we're literally headed in that direction with
Exactly.
the
Yeah.
Yeah,
Matrix is
and
the merging of like the human experience with machine, and it's happening
Mhm.
as we speak. We have to push back.
I read an article recently about a data center that they put in Salt Lake City in a year. There was a 2-degree different temperature difference in the area, and it's like
That is so
Beta
detrimental
greenies
to the
may not
environment
feel like a
and the
big deal,
ecosystem.
but, like, babies, when it is, August, and it's them 2 extra degrees are gonna matter.
Those 2 extra degrees are so harmful to the environment and to the ecosystems and
Oh,
to, like,
yeah.
to not only vegetation, but just the animals and not just humans, it really it fucks everything up,
Yeah.
those data centers do. So, thank you for saying that you're against that.
Yeah.
Um,
Oh, yeah. I know they were looking at, technically it's outside of the city because it's unincorporated. There must have been some deal a trillion years ago where a Derby Lane is
yeah.
not technically in the city, but it's inextricably intertwined with District 2 in the city. And I know that's
Yeah.
Mhm.
where that alleged inquiry was directed to, was bringing a data center there, which would be a total disaster because just like the redevelopment of the historic gas plant district, Derby Lane
Mhm.
is that level of opportunity for the
Yeah.
city that not many people are talking about because the city can't mandate and direct what's built there, but it's that caliber and level of opportunity with the acreage over there, which can
Yeah.
be a huge opportunity for District 2, by the way, I think is the district where we're going to most effectively attack the affordable housing issue in the
Yeah.
city because I call it the outer rim. I'm a big Star Wars fan.
Okay, okay.
When I moved here a couple of years ago, I didn't even know I was in the city of St. Pete because there's no strong identity like there is
Mhm.
in other parts of the city.
Yeah.
And I looked to what Councilman Steve Cornell did a couple of years ago with the Skyway Marina District, which was
Mhm.
um, creating an identity through a name and marketing and actually signage that says the Skyway Marina District, and you feel like you're in a place.
Yeah.
There's a board with all the business owners and residents that decide, we're going to do this event here, or we kind of want this area to look like that. So uniformity and identity, I think, will be a big opportunity for District 2 with the master plan under development as we speak.
Yeah, absolutely.
I went
Um,
to that issue and I think we were at data centers, then something in between, and then it got too
yeah,
exciting. And now I forgot what we were talking.
No, that's an
that's what I
excellent
wanted
way.
to
You're hitting your points. I love it.
that's actually what I wanted to open it up before we go into our last segment, the shout out or shut down. I wanted to open it up to you and see if there's anything else on your campaign talking points that you wanted to go over and kind of give your view on and why you're running for those.
I will, I'll end with what I think to me is the most important issue, and it's civil rights.
Mm,
Um, we
yes.
have the city of St. Pete is the beacon of equality, inclusivity, civil rights
Hmm.
in Florida, Miami Beach as well, but the city of
Hmm.
St. Pete, we have the biggest pride in the state.
Yep.
Uh, the St. Pete is where
Very
it's
proud of that.
extremely. Um, I think we can be more aggressive in pushing back against the legislature and governor, and that's why I'm one of the main reasons I'm running for the city council, because the governor, he doesn't want any LGBTQ people to live in Florida, period. And there's proof of that in that he um, pulse. By the way, that we're 2 days away from the 10-year anniversary,
On the 10-year anniversary, yeah.
where
Hmm.
4 people were killed. Last year, he paved over the rainbow crosswalk in front of the
Post
remember
Memorial.
the memorial. Um, I mean, are you serious? We're talking
Yeah.
about 49 people who were killed in this state, and you're doing that to make a political point? Like that's unbelievable. So a couple of things. One, I'm going to put together a coalition and we're going to push back again and retake the crosswalks. That's happening when I'm on city council. So I'm excited
Yes.
about that. We're going to put together a massive, massive movement to retake the sidewalks. It's going to start in St. Pete and it's going to spread across the state. Number one.
Fantastic.
Two, two is the Sunshine Skyway Bridge. And I know
Hmm.
Laura's that's because I've spoken at Stonewall a couple of times about the bridge. But this is a really important thing for me because I personally met Bob Graham a couple of times when he was alive. He just died a year or two
Hmm.
ago. It's actually called the Bob Graham Sunshine Skyway Bridge, and he was one of the last great Democratic governors of Florida between Askew and Childs. I think he was 80 through 88. There's no question, and it's great we're talking about this because his daughter, Gwen Graham, the former congresswoman in North Florida, was just named the running mate for David Jolly.
I love it.
Really?
I love it.
Cool.
That just happened a
That's
couple
amazing.
hours ago.
Wow.
There's no
Breaking
question. I can't wait to
news.
talk to her about this on the campaign trail. I think we should all be talking about this at every level of Florida campaigns.
Yeah.
There's no question her dad, Governor Bob Graham, who was a great Democrat, who was actually focused on public education, environmental protection, civil rights. Refreshing, right?
Yeah.
That he would light that bridge rainbow every June for Pride. It's named after him.
Absolutely.
We're going to, the movement will include relighting the bridge rainbow every June when I'm on the city council, and I'm really excited about that.
Absolutely. Well, that's awesome. I love hearing everything that you said today. It is just absolutely amazing. Before we jump into our last segment, I just want to say thank you again for coming on. But we are going to get into our shout out or shut down segment.
Okay.
And we kind of like to sandwich them a little bit. So depending on what you have, you can do one or the other or both. Laura, what do you have today?
I can do either. So however we want to do it, I can sandwich either way.
All right.
It's fine. I can go either way.
The governor. I'm going to be critical of the governor, so that's what I'm going to do.
Okay. Oh,
I think we
love
should
that.
let you.
So,
I think we should let you close it out. Then I'm happy with that. We'll let you close it out with that shutdown on him. I got a shout out, so I'll go first. I unfortunately missed our episode last week. I had some health issues going on, but we're here this week. I really want to shout out our amazing community, not only just worldwide and countrywide and statewide, but specifically here in St. Pete, in Pinellas County. I have never felt more accepted and more loved and more seen and more heard than living in St. Pete. And the fact that I can go to multiple different gay bars all across the city and across the county and just have a genuine conversation with anyone at any time is absolutely amazing. So I really want to shout out the LGBTQ community. Again, not just worldwide, not just nationwide, not just statewide, but here in Pinellas County, here at home. We have the largest pride for a reason. It is absolutely a beacon of hope and it's a beacon of love. And I shout out all of our amazing community here in Pinellas County.
Second that.
yeah, for sure. I'm gonna do a shout out. This one. Okay, so like last week I was shouting out Love Island, because the girls be girlin'. And so this is a little left lane from that, which is I'm going to shout out the World Cup. Caveat for
Okay.
FIFA corrupt and the way that and caveat. I am well aware of all of that, but it's kind of a little summer limit preview, you know what I mean? It sucks it's the men's World Cup because they're not as good as the US men are not as good as the women. Hello, I think we've got, what do we have? The women have 5 or 6 World Cup championships now. I think the men
Something
have
like that, yeah.
2. So we'll take them. But I just it's just fun. And I'm loving the TikTok seeing the Europeans who are coming over here and they're like, yo, it's hot. Cause they're in LA, they're in Houston, they are not, they are, and they're like, damn, it's hot. And we're like, it's preheat season, y'all. This is not even
That's why we have ice
summer
in the
yet.
country. Yeah.
Yeah,
Right.
exactly. So yeah, I'm just gonna shout out the World Cup. I know we've got the NBA playoffs, which go Knicks and the Love Island of it all. But once the World Cup starts, there you can watch there's gonna be up to 6 games a day for 3 weeks. So
Oof.
yeah, I'm sorry to my bosses for my productivity. That's
All
all I have.
right. Well, perfect. Gabriel, let's close it out. How are you going to close it out with your message to our lovely governor?
Yes. shutting his proclamation down. He put out this unbelievably ridiculous proclamation in response to Pride Month for June that talked about basically delegitimizing families with 2 dads and 2 moms. He's saying a real family is a man and a woman, and that's where children best thrive. That's totally not true. That's totally not true. We need to honor same-sex couples in the LGBTQ community, and nobody should be trying to take that away from us by these silly and ridiculous proclamations. So we're going to continue to shine bright despite Tallahassee.
I find it so ironic and so hilarious that the party that's all about pro-life and all of this is going to say that they don't want to see children with 2 loving parents, no matter their gender. The fact that I'm like, y'all are so pro-life, except when it comes to the child actually living and being raised by 2 loving and caring people that care for each other and for that child. But I digress. I digress.
Yeah, and it also, and this isn't necessarily just an LGBTQ, but it can be too. Shout out to single parents, yo. Like, sometimes,
Absolutely.
it totally just erases all the single parent experience, which is like, I don't know the statistics, but I don't know how many people are genuinely have 2 parents at all times in their house anymore. So like you're just alienating people who maybe they don't have experience with same-sex couples having children, but they know that like, well, I don't have a 2-parent household either. What is that? What are you
That's a
saying
great
about me?
point. I'm glad you brought that perspective up because there was all this discussion in this proclamation about how the best families are ones with fathers. Are
Mhm.
you serious? What about single moms? I mean,
Right.
Yep.
this guy's
Yep.
totally out
Right.
of touch with the state. I can't believe he's been elected.
Yeah. Well,
Well, thank God we don't have to deal with him. I am just so scared of what might come after him. So everybody get out and vote for David Jolly because we
Yeah,
have
he's going to
got to
win
turn
big.
this
I'm
state around.
confident of that. He's going to win
We
big.
have got to turn the state around. All right. Well, Gabriel, thank you so much for joining us today. I want to wish you best of luck. We want to wish you best of luck on your campaign. We do want to have you back, of course. We'll have you back in a couple of months to give us an update on your campaign and how everything's going. But for tonight, thank you for coming here and introducing yourself to us. And I want to wish you the best. We want to wish you the best of luck moving forward.
Such an honor and privilege. Thank you so much for the opportunity.
oh,
Absolutely.
awesome. Thanks, Gabriel.
Uh,
Oh, before we bounce out, do you are you on the socials, website? How can
yes.
people find you and volunteer or donate?
Yes, it's gabrielforstpete.com. And then if you look up
Gabriel
Gabriel,
FOR or 4?
FOR,
Okay.
stpete.com, and then Gabriel Hament for St. Pete City Council on Facebook. You can keep up with us.
Perfect. And
Perfect.
we will definitely tag you.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Appreciate that.
for sure, definitely. That's all we've got for us tonight. Please remember to like and follow not only Gabriel on the social medias, but you can like and follow us. We're on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, and Substack. We're at forsaint.petesafe. Subscribe to our podcast wherever you're listening, and if you can't, on YouTube as well, and leave a rating and review if you could. That helps promote us on the algorithms. We'll be back next week with more stories from the people doing the hard work to make our community better. Until next time, for St. Pete's sake, keep pushing for change.